Hi, we'll see if we can try to walk you through some of the basic outlines of this competency clearinghouse and consortium. A clearinghouse for curriculum resources, and then a consortium for where teachers can come together and discuss those resources, add to those resources over time, and really try to create the product that we feel like is best for everyone. And I don't know where your schools are at with Marzano's levels of a high reliability school, but when you see the level 3 there being a guaranteed and viable curriculum that will allow you to get to eventually level 5, which is competency-based education, I really question, even if we really like our curriculums, whether or not our curriculums are broad enough and diverse enough to include enough resources and the ideas, the framework of a competency-based system to really get there. To build a curriculum that's long-term viable and a process that will allow us to continually making it viable as we go through changes. We really see value in this consortium model using the Rpdc and their curriculum resources. So I'm going to talk for just a minute about the competencies themselves and kind of how we will try to derive at that process. And so competencies provide some incentives and some benefits over just a traditional, these are the standards, this is what we're looking at. And that's because competencies really take those standards and break them down to their inherent parts. And by doing that, we can really begin to ask questions about things like, do all the kids really need to do this same activity? Do they all need to have the same skill? And the answer is sometimes yes, but in other times no. And by looking at it from that perspective, as you can see on the right here, big ideas and enduring understandings, those are the core competencies that we think everybody should be able to do. So when we talk about competencies, you see some of those bulleted points. It does provide us with better opportunities for differentiation, just because we can actually look at the material from this perspective of, is this a core competency or is this something just worth being familiar with? And if so, why are we making the whole class do this? We should be dividing this up. And I also think of the benefits with that for special education are tremendous, because in most school districts that I've ever been in, that is the constant struggle of SPED teachers, especially at the secondary level, is what is the core portion that I need my kids to understand from this. Going into that concept, then we can work on mastery. We can work on those big ideas and enduring understandings instead of being a one-time grade. Operate under a model of, you are going to continue working on this until you show genuine mastery. And I think that's very important in certain skills instead of moving on to other things. And then you look at that grading portion as well. If you actually want to move toward a competency-based system, then you have to have curriculum that is in line with those competencies. So we feel like this is a broad base that allows for a lot of things. If you want to use the competencies in a traditional manner, it's still going to help you give some clarity. It's going to provide some questions as well that you can present to students based on their ability level. So we think it'll help with differentiation no matter what, no matter how you use it. And so to do this, we really feel like that in terms of making curriculum in all of your districts, you probably have two types of teachers. So you have curriculum creators and you have curriculum implementers. And I should stress that this is mainly just in regards to curriculum. These teachers, it might have nothing to do even with their ability to teach. Some curriculum implementers are tremendous teachers who do fantastic things in their classroom, but they're not the sort of person who is necessarily going to be the best for a work study on curriculum, because they don't see it in the sense of, oh, I can take this and make it into something completely different and new. They often are more innovators as opposed to the curriculum creator being an inventor type. And there's a big difference between being able to just see something out of nothing and see a different purpose. And so curriculum creators often show signs of both of these things. And for our purposes, we feel like they are very important to the development of a competency-based curriculum because they can see it in that different way. Now, when it comes to developing the competencies, we would want all parties to be a part of that because all of the input would help get a real solid feel for what needs to be in the competency. But then when it comes to the actual work grouping of taking curriculum pieces and putting it into the appropriate category, we would really be looking for these curriculum creator types. And so I've kind of made a list here in coordination with some other schools and with the RPDC to give you an idea of why the curriculum creator is different from just the curriculum implementer. And so these teachers, they rarely accept material just as it is, as I call it. They never take stock or canned material and just think that it's good enough. They almost always have to make modifications. They'll often create just new curriculum lessons, new materials. They'll pull in different materials from other areas. They often recreate assessments. This is a big one. They will see lessons from other disciplines and reimagine them. So they might see an English lesson and say, I know this is being presented as an English lesson, but I really actually see this more as a math lesson, which not everybody has that kind of capability. They'll take multiple sources of materials, merge them together into one thing. And often, these are the teachers that will look for other sources beyond textbooks. And that's one of the keys for us as well, is if we're going to build a consortium model, the key for us is to look at how do we move away from just a textbook series that might vary widely from district to district and move to open sources that we could all utilize. And to be honest, our model for this has kind of come out of the ag world. I see just how much benefit they have from a model that is similar to this. Now theirs has grown tremendously over the years, but in the beginning they would have started off somewhat simply in the area where we're at. And so we're looking for the types of people that can handle the task of taking all of this diverse curriculum that we're hoping to collect from your schools and put it together into a simple framework. And so to talk about how we're going to do that, this is our framework for long-term improvement. And so we would start off, like I said, with that initial study group that would include as many teachers as want to come, where we would establish what our transfer goals are. In other words, what are the long-term skills that we really want kids leaving the classroom with, and the enduring understandings. So these would be the knowledge base that you need to actually utilize those skills. And so we would want to have a broad group of people to come together to develop those. Then we would do a working group to combine curriculum material and modify or create assessments that come out of those materials that fit the transfer goals and enduring understandings. Then we would send that initial curriculum out to member schools along with the consortium model of message boards and meetings that would allow teachers to come together and actually discuss the curriculum and how they're implementing it in their schools. Then we would try to come back the following year with another study group that would analyze the curriculum's effectiveness. And then you could do another working group to make modifications based on the study group's recommendations. And you could repeat this process as often as necessary. You might do it yearly in the early portions of the program, and by the end you might not be doing it nearly as often. That the consortium model would do a lot of this on its own. And so that's kind of our framework for a long-term plan. In the short term, you'll see here that we're in November, and we're making this presentation and also a presentation for the principals for the winter. We would hope to have our study groups convening with large-scale groups of teachers by March, and then build a working group for June. And the work groups would be made up of teachers that meet that curriculum creator skill in the content areas that we're planning on working on for that summer. And we would really like for them just to be paid by their home district at whatever rate, and then RPDC would supply all of the meeting spaces. They would supply some of the curriculum experts and the experts in this process to bring them together and kind of work through these things. And then with them coming together to work in those groups, we would really hope to have a rollout by July for the online network in the initial curriculum framework and resources. So that's our plan for kind of the pilot for this. And just to give you an idea, we have been considering piloting social studies, and so I have a few things just to give you a basic idea of what it would actually look like. And so these are the transfer goals along the top of the page here for social studies. in a competency framework. And this would be all of your social studies classes. So like this is looking at the whole of your program from, say, 30,000 feet. And so there's 4 main skills there that we would hope kids would have. So those are the skills that we're looking for, and we kind of stole those from the National Council. And then on the left-hand side there, we had just 5 broad themes and enduring understandings. And these are just samples. We would like to put these out to the greater group to let them kind of work and modify them. But these are 5 themes that stand fairly true in any field of social studies, whether it be economics or history or government. And so you can see we've kind of put those pieces together, and we feel like these strands, these skills, are what we should be trying to push toward, and these broad themes and understandings are the areas that are going to allow us to kind of categorize what we're doing. And so this is what it would look like in the broad picture, and then just to break it down for a single class, here's an example of what this might look like in a government classroom just in one small area. I don't have enough space to show you a large area. So basically, you have power can be used and limited in many ways, which was one of our broad themes and understandings. And then we have a little bit more specific competency just for government, which says in America, power is divided by function and by geography. And so you'll notice that that's in green. That means it's a core competency that every kid should learn. And then along the skill levels there, we also have multiple questions that allow for kind of open discussion or open lessons that focus on from green to blue. So I'm just going to go over to participate as an active and civil citizen and see the core competency question asks, how is government power in America divided? That's a fairly basic question. But then when you look into that little bit more in-depth yellowish section, we have, does the U.S. system encourage more people to participate in government? And then down at the blue, we have a question that probably doesn't need to be answered by all of our students, especially not our lowest students, but I would hope is the sort of intellectual, rigorous conversation we would be having with our top students, which is, are citizens more involved in a unitary system than in a federalist system? And so I hope this gives you a little bit of an idea just of how we would kind of divide and build the framework class by class, because then the goal is to actually make it unit by unit. And what you would do is basically you're going to start dropping in curriculum resources that you collect from the member schools. And this would be the work of that working group of curriculum creators, where they're taking these and they're looking at it and they're saying, is this a resource that is going to help fill in government power in America? You know, and is it a core competency? Okay, well, where does it fall? And so we would just drop these things in. And so basically what we're building for your teachers is a resource kit of tools that will help them with that differentiation. Oftentimes teachers say, well, I just don't have enough materials, or I don't have this for that. We're hoping this will help solve that problem. And also the competencies themselves should improve your assessment structure, just because you have big picture goals and formatting that allows you to look long term. So we've kind of tried to build this from the back to this point. And so this is just kind of a broad-based view of what it should look like. So in the end, what we're really looking for is staff, and we're looking for curriculum, and we're looking for people who are willing to work with it in school districts that are willing to allow teachers to go to the Rpdc and pay them some money for that summer work that you're probably already paying. And what we're trying to offer in return is a curriculum resource that will be built around that competency, and a massive clearinghouse of material that should hopefully allow us to all be better off. And then that's that consortium model as well that should allow them to interact and discuss that material. And so those are the things that I'm really looking for. And so if you have questions about what it would look like or what it might take, you see my email there off to the side. And then if you're looking for more of a Rpdc viewpoint, you have Dr. Blaine's info there as well. If you're interested, please let us know. If you have questions, please let us know. We're interested in making this work. So anything we can do to help, we're happy to offer it. Thank you.